Like, I've been fiending my whole life to get food stamps. I finally got approved for food stamps. And I get to the office and look at the wait. Like, I don't even want the food stamps no more. Dead serious. Should look like class. Oh, I'm annoyed. A whole hour later. I've been
What's up? You already know it's the girl Grip Baby. In the building, I'm not the one, the two, or the three.
The caption says Grip Baby crying because she can't get food stamps. She says she can't get help because she's famous.
You know, building, I'm not the one, the two, or the three. You know. So you guys, I'm finna start opening up more. I'm finna tell y'all my situation because I'm tired of it going on. And it been going on since I've been down here in North Carolina. I'm gonna start off by saying just because I'm famous and I'm over the whole world and everybody know me, does not mean I don't have no money. Does not mean that I shouldn't get the help that I need. I'm not getting food stamps. I'm not getting Medicaid. I'm not getting nothing down here. When you type in my social security number, if it's saying that I don't make no money, I'm not making no money. Y'all have to count that. Now, I don't know what y'all doing, but it stopped right now with me because this is not right. Y'all don't want to give me my EBT because of bullshit, but because of mistakes that y'all have made. Everything y'all have asked me to do, I have.
Some people become so over-reliant on EBT and food stamps. I wouldn't be surprised if she didn't qualify no more once they started looking at her TikTok checks and all this type of stuff. And so now this blessing that you've grown accustomed to that is really meant for you to get off of it to begin with, you still feel like, well, no, that's going to cut into my funds or whatever the case. And I don't know. She says she's still poor or whatever. But if you're TikTok famous and let's just say you're making a little bit of money off there and you're poor, then there's probably a clear opportunity to get a job, is what it comes down to. Because if you're TikTok famous, that gives me indication that you might not be working. And you might just be trying to do this full time, which ultimately reveals that there is an opportunity. And the opportunity is for you to just get a job if that's what it takes. But see, if you're famous, some people may not be willing to get a job because they don't want to be identified at whatever the job is or whatever the case. But I'll never be embarrassed to put in a hard day's work, whatever that looks like.
Money. Y'all have to count that. Now, I don't know what y'all doing, but it stopped right now with me because this is not right. Y'all don't want to give me my EBT because of bullshit, but because of mistakes that y'all have made. Everything y'all have asked me to do, I have did it. And y'all want to throw up because I'm famous, basically. I don't qualify. There's a lot of people that famous don't have a penny to show for it. And the reason I don't have a penny to show for it, because I have been solid bullied since I've been on this.
Silent bullied? Well, yeah, if you're getting bullied online, then the easiest thing is to get offline. That's the beautiful thing about getting bullied online. See, when you used to get bullied on the playground, you still was in school. You had to show up every day to that playground during recess. The beautiful thing about getting bullied online is you can just literally cut the phone off. You can, matter of fact, you can still have full functionality of your phone, your computer. You just simply delete the app. You can even delete your account. She's saying she doesn't qualify for food stamps. Again, I would bet it was because of her TikTok, her TikTok money that she was probably making. And let's get back, but let's finish this out because we need to revisit that first clip too, because that first clip was crazy. But y'all, before we do, if you could like the video, I greatly appreciate it. It only takes a second and it actually helps out more than you know. And it's only a click. So if you're here anyway, you might as well click that like button. And also if you could hype.
have a penny to show for it because I have been solid bully since I've been on this app. With that being said, they take my weakness for kindness and do me any kind of way. Every time I let somebody come in and try to help me, they mess it up. They take my money. They do me any kind of way. And I need somebody to help me because this is ridiculous. What's up?
They become so reliant on these freaking benefits. Everything is solved with the benefits. Now, let's get back to I don't even want the food stamps no more, girl. Did you hear when she said that? Watch this again.
I've been fiending my whole life to get food stamps. I finally got approved for food stamps. And
Who says stuff like that? I've been fiending my whole life for some food stamps. So for your whole life, you've been fiending to be in destitution, is what you're telling me. You've been fiending to be poor. Oh, food stamps doesn't represent being poor anymore. If that doesn't give you any greater indication of what type of fraud and egregious things go on with government assistance, then I don't know what will. I've been fiending my whole life. Can you imagine somebody back in the olden times talking about hey, I've been fiending my whole life to be a peasant? It would have never happened because a peasant was just that, a peasant. And ain't nobody fiending to be trying to wish and pray that a crumb of bread will be on this dirty ground, dirty, dusty ground, so that they can go and eat the crumb. But see, that's not how destitution works in America. You'll be on food stamps and you'll be eating better and living better ultimately than middle class families. And that's how you have people talking about they've been fiending to get on the program. Another data point of the stuff that we typically talk about.
finally got approved for food stamps. And I get to the office and look at the wait. Like, I don't even want the food stamps no more.
If the entitlement didn't get worse, now she's talking about some time is money. And now, Miss Poor Person in Destitution in Need, if I don't get these benefits, I'm going to starve over here. It's talking about some, oh, what's up with this line? This ain't easy. This is supposed to be easy. This is supposed to be easy. Just give me what I'm owed. That's like if somebody really owes you some money and then they got you waiting. That's the only time you don't want to wait for money. If they owe it to you. No, you ain't finna have me waiting. Just give it to me now. So that's how she's looking at these food stamp benefits. And then she's going to say, well, if I'm weighing my time versus these benefits, I don't even want them no more. My time is more valuable than this. So you're not starving. So if you don't get them, you won't starve. Because apparently there's a cutoff as far as your time. She's looking at it. This is exactly what I say. Now people got to do these work requirements. What are they doing? They're weighing the time versus the benefit. They're saying, well, if I got to do 80 hours of work requirements now and I'm getting X, Y, Z in benefits, this is less than minimum wage. And that's why you had over 100,000 people in Tennessee not try to renew their benefits or not apply for benefits now because people are weighing it. They're just saying it's not worth it, which ultimately showed that it wasn't about people not going to be able to survive without it. It was about people feeling like it's free, they're entitled to it. And what has been exposed now is that people are lazy. And that if you put any degree of friction to where they have to do anything on their own behalf, then all of a sudden then it's off the table and they can do without it. And if you can do without it, then that means that you didn't need it to begin with.
I don't even want the food stamps no more. That's serious. Should look like class.
Let's get to some more clips, but then look at this. See, it's so crazy. You used to be ashamed to be found out and be letting the world know that you're on benefits. Ma'am, some people are still ashamed. So I say that to say, why are you, listen, we get that you don't have no shame, but to be sitting here recording, she done panned the room of everybody in the room and caught all their faces. Why? What was the point of doing that? Are you not even thinking? This is how much people aren't even thinking about other people. They're only in their own little world and they cannot see past their own selves. She's not even reading the room to understand that, ma'am, the average person isn't proud to be on rough times and be sitting at the food stamp office. They didn't foresee their life going this way. Nobody would choose that aside from you, who's been fiending since the day you was born to get food stamps, like she said. Most people aren't fiending to be in destitution.
My whole life, I've been fiending my whole life to get food stamps.
I've been fiending my whole life to get food stamps. That's not the average person, ma'am. The average person is embarrassed to get food stamps. And you're going to sit here and you're going to record this entire room and be catching people's faces on camera of them getting food stamps. You can't make this up, man. The entitlement, the selfishness, the lack of self-awareness is at an all-time high. An all-time high. Again, y'all, if you could like the video.
How about I just check my app again? And mind you, when I called the food stamp people, they told me that someone canceled my card. So I'm over here scratching my head like, I know I didn't cancel my card because I had stamps on my card. Mind you, the first time they took $224 and then they did another transaction of $68. They returned the food and they must have got the money in cash. Okay? So this morning I checked it, y'all. I had $98 on my card. Right? So I'm trying to see if they canceled the card, how are they able to use it again? Y'all tell me why they had a transaction of $90 from yesterday and my card's supposed to be canceled. So I'm trying to see what is really good. So should I make a police report or not? But I'm thinking about making one because, baby girl, I'm finna get another deposit. And Dream, stop, Dream. I'm finna get another deposit. And I know they can see. They're inside of my app. So, guys, please go.
Okay. She's about to, I don't want nothing inappropriate to happen.
Why do so many of y'all care what people buy with their SNAP benefits? Why do you care if they want to buy Oreos or pop or sugary beverages? It's not your health on the line, it's theirs. That bothers you more than our tax dollars going and funding a genocide on the other side of the world that left millions, homes in ruins and everything else in between? It doesn't bother you that Amazon, Microsoft, and all these other big tech companies are laying off more than 118,000 workers because of AI? That doesn't bother you?
The fact that you don't seem to think it's possible to care about more than one thing at a time demonstrates that you really don't have the mental capacity to have a conversation about the supposed genocide that we're funding on the other side of the world. But to get to a simpler conversation, if it matters to you how our tax dollars are being used overseas, why doesn't it matter to you how they're being used here? And to this point,
not your health on the line, it's theirs.
Things like SNAP benefits are meant to be a temporary assistance program, but people who use SNAP benefits to load up on things like junk food make their health worse, increase the likelihood of developing conditions that are going to keep them out of the workforce longer, which means they end up using SNAP benefits longer. Then they can't get things like insurance through their employer, so then they need more government assistance like Medicaid. And the longer that people rely on our tax dollars to take care of them, the less motivated they are to take care of themselves. So yeah, it matters when our tax dollars are enabling people so that they can completely remove themselves from contributing to society, and we end up supporting people that have zero reason not to be out there working right along with the rest of us.
Why do so many of y'all?
Yeah, and I mean, the first point that she brought up is that the cognitive dissonance that we can't think about multiple things at once. We can't be concerned about multiple issues at once. Why are you worried about this and you're not worried about this, that, and this? So you're trying to tell us what we need to prioritize being worried about, but ultimately, you really just need to focus on this and don't even address this. But who would think that she's not focused on a plethora and multitude of issues? You're not just focused on the genocide. I'm sure you're focused on politics here, all type of. You're literally talking about it yourself. Why aren't you focused on the genocide in wherever you're talking about? Why don't you go over there instead of? Why don't you just speak about that? Why you're scattered in the things that you talk about and advocate for. Because instead of advocating for that, you're advocating up against this. Why are you talking about this trivial stuff when we got far more important matters to be talking about? That should be all you talk about if that's what you're really, truly concerned about. But what these things truly are is these are shame and manipulation tactics in order to try to silence people from talking about or talking in opposition to things that other people are advocating for. And they really have to silence you. Why do you think, haven't you noticed there's such a large segment of people who are so invested in, instead of just pushing and focusing and being confident in what they're talking about, they create their entire life around trying to silence other people who are talking about something. So instead of them focusing on just advocating for what they believe, they actually focus on silencing advocates in opposition to what they believe. Why do you think that is? That's probably because they actually know that whatever they're advocating for is not solid. When you know that you're speaking on the truth and you know that you're speaking about something that's going to truly resonate in the hearts of people, which the truth will always resonate, it'll always resonate. The truth doesn't have to be loud either. The truth doesn't have to be irate. The truth doesn't have to be emotional. You can just say it and it's going to have a profound effect and a profound impact. And so when people know that they're really not standing in truth and they're really not standing in righteousness, but they want to ultimately oppose it. I mean, they got people advocating and trying to silence people who talk about things as far as what's not natural. It's not natural to do this. It's not in our nature to do that. And then they'll try to silence you for that. Talking about certain issues that is not natural to human beings. They'll try to silence you and make that controversial if you talk in opposition of things that aren't natural. Because they know they're not standing on truth. You can just say the truth and it's going to be impactful. And that's why they try to silence people so heavily. They just focus on trying to silence people and trying to shame you and tell you why you shouldn't talk about something. That's usually a positive indicator that you're talking about the right things when people look how upset she is. You got one person that's upset, and that's another indicator. When you got somebody that's super upset and super passionate, that lets you know that it's probably not a good foundation because it doesn't require all that. If you know what you're doing is right, then you don't have to get animated like this.
Or what people buy with their SNAP benefits. Why do you care if they want to buy Oreos or pop or sugary beverages? It's not your health on the
Look at her. It doesn't require all that if you know you're on the right side of history.
That's why they stopping food stamps. Because this live in 76105, which nobody in this area make over $5,000 a year. What the fuck is this 76105 food stamp card doing over here in 76120 in these $300,000 houses? She sold them to her auntie. So the auntie got the food stamp card over here in this high tax area where nobody should be getting food stamps. They running the card up. That's why they think poor people is eating lobster steak, because they selling the food stamp. Now when the get the card back, her and her kid might just got all microwave food. So this mother kid, whole life until he's damn near grown, is completely reliant upon him eating at school, at least breakfast and lunch. That's why
Supplemental Nutrition Assistance Program, or SNAP, formerly known as food stamps, has fallen sharply nationwide since the passage of the One Big Beautiful Bill Act last summer. There are over 38 million people getting the food assistance, but more than 3.5 million of them have lost access, as states are implementing a series of new eligibility requirements and stricter processes for applying. Our William Brangham has more on what's happening and the concerns.
That's right, Amna. Last year's Republican centerpiece budget law is projected to cut $186 billion in federal spending on SNAP over the next decade. But it's not only about funding cuts. The new law changed eligibility criteria, like raising the age limit for work requirements from 54 to 64 and increasing the amount of documentation.
You know, I don't actually talk about that too much, and I really should. I would be curious to hear you all's thoughts as far as what you think about them changing the age limit for work requirements to 54 to 64. Because 64 is actually 65 is the standard age of retirement. That's when you retire, when the average person retires anyway, God willing, because there's a lot of people who can't retire right now in the economy and also just based off their decisions as well. So, because most people aren't saving for retirement, but they're raising it from 54 to 64. I think that makes sense. I definitely think that makes sense, especially coming from somebody like me. I don't ever want to have a day where I'm not working. I'm not saying not have a day, but I just mean I don't ever want a day to come to where I'm just looking forward to just sitting on the couch doing nothing. So I plan on working until I die. So maybe I have a different perspective altogether. But 64 is the age of retirement as well already. So this isn't anything new. If anything, what it just exposes is just how chill this program was. How chill this program was. I've met tons of people in their 50s that are healthier than a lot of young dudes I know. Very much full of life. And again, the average age of retirement is 65. So it was already set for people to just be able to be older and get it and not have to work. It was already set for people in their mid 50s. Isn't that nice? Let's get back into it. It also is covering that there's more documentation required to enroll. So let's see if they're going to unpack that.
And increasing the amount of documentation required to enroll. Since then, every state has seen a decline in people enrolled in SNAP, led by Arizona, where participation has fallen by 51%, according to some estimates.
So hold on, let me get this straight. Simply by putting a work requirement and requiring more documentation, that has made people who swore on everything that they needed this stuff or else they wouldn't be able to make it to tomorrow. Now all of a sudden enrollment has dropped. That's very telling. You just ask for more info, more verification, and you've ultimately made it to where people have to work. And now all of a sudden there's been a drop off when this was so necessary. I'm not saying the program's so necessary, but I'm saying people were acting like them getting these benefits was so necessary. Otherwise, there were going to be all these harsh implications that we were supposed to be feeling sorry about.
Those who are still eligible are receiving much lower benefits and often facing longer reauthorization times.
Maintain benefits. And at the same time, most states, including Arizona, are understaffed. So they lack the capacity to process all this paperwork. And so when a person is applying for the first time or recertifying or confirming their hours worked to comply with the time limit, there's a 30-day deadline. Even if an eligible person submits all the required information on time, if the state does not process it by the deadline, that person is automatically removed and has to.
So they got to report their hours worked as well. Do we think there is going to be people who find a way to defraud that? I'd be curious. We know that, because another thing is they're not playing. They're cracking down on fraud as well. If you're caught lying or doing something like that, the government is prosecuting now. Before it was people who defrauded things, and it seemed like they were just able to get away from it, away with it, and there was no oversight. And now you see people getting letters in the mail at the very least where the government wants to claw back that money. Whether it's clawing back money because they didn't report that they had a job, whether it's clawing back money because they were selling their benefits or had somebody living in a home, if you're on Section 8, whatever. But they still weren't really prosecuting like that. But now I would have to think there's going to be people who may be fudging their work hours numbers and just putting whatever on the paper, saying, yeah, I worked for this company for these many hours. And then if they go and verify it, it's going to be like, no. Even if you worked for somebody, let's say you worked that week, 13 hours, you still didn't meet the full 20. And I think people will procrastinate on one end and not go and do the work they're supposed to do, but then still expect the benefits. And so they'll still probably try to pretend like they did. Pretend like they still met the requirement.
Okay, I need your opinion on this, right?
I left government housing in 2012, so we're talking 13, 14 years ago now. Leaving government housing was the best thing that I could do for myself. And anytime I have a friend or know someone who lives in government housing, I always tell them, as soon as you are on your feet, it is time to exit government housing. If you think of a snake will only grow as big as its cage or its glass, whatever, you get it. I feel like we're very much the same. Government housing keeps you small. Why would you earn more if your rent is like $300? I know there's exceptions to the rules. I know a lot of people will stay in government housing. The families will band together. I know this from personal experience, people that I know, and they will save, and then they leave government housing and they buy a huge house.
The families will band together and they'll save. Well, ma'am, they're defrauding if that's the case. They're not supposed to be banding together and then basically having working people come and move into the house as well. And then they save and take advantage of the program. And then now they got all this money saved and they can do whatever. That's not how that's supposed to work. So even the strategy that you're talking about is not supposed to happen. And funny enough, she's right. As far as why would somebody whose rent is so low, why would they be incentivized to try to actually evolve in life and not get comfortable with basically just having all their living expenses covered and they don't have to do anything and they can survive just fine, and now they have all their free time? And that's why you see, like what they were saying, people haven't been enrolling the way that they used to, because people were acting like the best feature of this program was just about taking care of families and they're able to get all these groceries and get the free rent. But the deal breaker has always really been and truly been, in most cases, that people are just lazy and they don't want to work. And so this program, above just taking care of people, it ultimately gives people back their time. And as you saw in that first clip, when that woman went into the food stamp office, you see how much they value their time. Their time is much more valuable in proportion to these benefits. She probably don't even have a job, and yet she's like, this is my day. I'm not finna spend it here. This is supposed to be automatic. Why I have to sit down and wait? Oh, it's like a line like this. I don't even want it no more. You don't even want it no more? Just because it's going to take a little time? Again, that's very telling. Y'all, we'll leave it there for today, though. If you could like the video, I greatly appreciate it. Only takes a second, and it actually helps out more than you know. And also, if you could hype the video, hype is a new feature that YouTube offers where it helps smaller content creators like myself. And basically, when you hype, it actually pushes us to the extent that it pushes the larger content creators. So you just press the hype button and it shows the points. And since I'm a smaller creator, a smaller channel, we actually get more points per hype. And hype was designed for smaller channels. So if you want to hype, again, I greatly appreciate it. And then also, if you want to become a member of the channel, join buttons on the video. And what becoming a member of the DXU family will come with is you would get badges next to your comments, where it will show people that you are a member whenever you leave a comment, as well as you would get early access to content and exclusive content that's not available for other members on YouTube. So again, if you want to become a member, join buttons on the video. But until then, I'll see you in the next video.